Stupid Garbage Podcast.
Oh, I like that.
Get that on the pod. Come on over. How you doing, Jess?
I don't know.
Jessica just converted to the blue couch team.
Well, it's because I've been forced to.
Red couch team looking awfully scarce these days.
I'm a fan of the red couch. You're just against it for some reason.
I'm not against it. It's just you have mountains of clothes on it.
Even when I don't.
You never don't.
I always don't.
Well, here we are at one of our legendary impasses.
Happy Friday.
It is Tuesday.
Having a hard week.
Not that you woke up at 2 p.m.
I know, but like, even though that sounds like I'm living the bougie life of no responsibility, I don't want to wake up at 2.
Your alarm went off at noon.
I know.
And you shut it off. And then it went off again 5 minutes later.
Yeah. I set it, like I turned it off and then I set it for like 12:15. And then I thought, this isn't enough sleep. And then I just turned it all the way off like an idiot.
Well, here we are. What have you brought to the pod today?
Myself.
Okay.
I'm present.
That's more than, honestly, I often expect. So
thank you.
This is a good compromise, I think.
Robert.
12:20 a.m., dear listeners.
Robert does 100% of our work. Is that?
I do.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. So I do nothing. I just show up, and Rob literally does everything else. So.
That's true.
Here I am.
Have you ever? I have a couple of things. If you wanna, you can pick which one you want to go with.
Let's do that.
All right. Let's see. First things first. Have you ever heard of the Birdman of Alcatraz?
No.
No. It's interesting that he's called the Birdman of Alcatraz because Alcatraz was where he wasn't allowed to use his birds. So this entire thing is just like, you know how you open someone's Wikipedia page and there's just at the top before any of the sections there's just the intro.
Sure.
This is just his intro.
Okay.
I can read it in 2 minutes. This
okay.
is just right off the top. Robert Franklin Stroud, born January 28, 1890, known as the Birdman of Alcatraz, was a convicted murderer, American federal prisoner, and author who has been cited as one of the most notorious criminals in the United States. During his time at Leavenworth Penitentiary, which is a pretty famous place that held a lot of people, including Michael Vick, he reared and sold birds and became a respected ornithologist, although regulations did not allow him to keep birds at Alcatraz, where he was incarcerated from 1942 to 59. He was never released from the federal prison system. He was in prison from 1909 to his death in 1963.
Wow.
Yeah. Born in Seattle, so he was in Alcatraz for like 17 years, which I didn't know people could be there that long. I thought it was either 5 or 10 years, but...
I don't know the rules.
Born in Seattle, Washington, Stroud ran away from his abusive father at the age of 13. And by the time, so this was like 1903. He ran away from home at 13. And by the time he was 18, he had become a pimp in the Alaska Territory. How does that happen?
A pimp, like a literal...
That's what it's a pimp.
Okay.
In Alaska, before it was a state, 50 years before it was a state.
Territory.
In January 1909, he shot and killed a bartender who attacked his mistress, a crime for which he was sentenced to 12 years in the federal penitentiary on McNeil Island in Puget Sound.
12 years for a murder seems not like a lot of time, right?
Stroud gained a reputation as a dangerous inmate who frequently had confrontations with fellow inmates and staff. And in 1916, he stabbed and killed a guard. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to hang, but after several trials, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment in solitary confinement. 1920, while in solitary confinement in Leavenworth, which is in Kansas, Stroud discovered a nest with 3 injured sparrows in the prison yard. He cared for them, and within a few years had acquired a collection of about 300 canaries.
Are you just... Wait, what?
Yep. That's just what it leaps to. He found a nest with 3 sparrows in it, and within a couple of years, he had 300 canaries. You'll note a canary and a sparrow are different birds.
First of all...
I don't know how he came up, how he did this sort of... hand-waving barter system.
We have a 2-floor apartment. I don't think we could keep 300 canaries here. Where was he putting the canaries?
Presumably outside.
He had a prison cell.
Well, I don't know. He found some in a yard, in the prison yard.
Oh my god.
So...
Though, yeah, but I'm pretty sure, don't canaries not...
Jessica, this is all it says. He began extensive research into birds.
Again, how are you researching in prison? Like a library?
Watching the birds. What do you mean?
It's not research.
Of course it's research. How do you think any zoologist researches animals?
Yeah, but you in order to like take care of an animal, you need to know how to take care of it before you try.
Not necessarily.
Like you shouldn't just be like, oh, here's a baby animal, go rear this thing. Like you need to be.
Absolutely
That's
could.
not a good idea at all.
That's how people learn husbandry. That's how.
Yeah, but do you know how many animals die before you learn how to do it correctly? That's not a thing.
He's not killing them.
If
you're in solitary confinement, the only things you have to do are to rear and observe these birds and to read.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, reading counts as research. That's fine.
There are a lot of ways to do research. Reading is one of them. Reading is a fine way to
I
do
know, but I'm
research,
saying researching by doing isn't the most efficient way to, like, raise animals and take care of animals. Like, you should be...
I don't know. I might entirely disagree with you. Anyway,
Okay.
He began extensive research into birds after being granted, there you go, equipment by a prison reforming warden. Stroud
Crazy.
wrote Diseases of Canaries, which was smuggled out of Leavenworth and published in 1933, as well as a later edition in 1943. He made important contributions to avian pathology.
That's hysterical.
Most notably, a cure for the hemorrhagic septicemia family of diseases.
That's hysterical.
Much respect and some level of sympathy among ornithologists and farmers.
What? Where was he educated? Didn't he go to prison at 18?
He went to prison at 18, ran away from 13.
But where did
presumably
he...
no.
I mean, can most uneducated people invent a cure?
All he's
for
doing
diseases?
is studying birds. He's in solitary confinement for 20 years.
I don't know. I don't think I could invent a cure. I'd be like, oh, sick, sad.
Good thing that he did it first. Stroud ran a successful business from inside prison, but his activities infuriated the prison staff, and he was eventually transferred to Alcatraz in 1942 after his discovery that he had been secretly making alcohol using some of the equipment in his cell. Sounds like a setup job to me. He began serving a 17-year term, at Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary on December 19th, 1942, and became inmate number 594. In 1943, he was assessed by psychiatrist Romney M. Ritchie, who diagnosed him as a psychopath, but with an IQ of 112. Stripped of his birds and equipment, he wrote a history of the penal system. He was transferred to the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri in 1959, where he stayed until his death on November 21st, 1963. And if that date, November 21st, 1963, stands out to you, it is the day before JFK was assassinated.
It doesn't.
That's bananas, man. What a life. You want to read about his prison life?
Do I?
I don't know. I have not read about it.
I would argue no, right? Like, this is not...
All right.
Unless there's something cool and interesting that, but I don't want to do live...
Well, I thought that was all cool and interesting, but it doesn't seem like you have much to say about it except calling it a
Everything I say, you just shut me down.
Well,
so
I was just trying to get through it, to read it, so then we could talk about it.
Well,
I was gonna read
no,
it. It
not
was 4
that's not the
paragraphs.
issue. It's the stuff that what I was saying. You're just like, no, that's stupid. So it's not.
Well, first of all, you're interrupting me. I'm not going to entertain it very much, but also I disagree with you. You're saying you don't understand how he studied birds. He had, somehow, it seems like he bought them, I would think, 300 birds. And he's in solitary confinement. What else is he going to do besides studying birds?
I understand that, but there are like little things that I don't know. I feel like a lot of animals are easy to kill sometimes. Like maybe if he put the equipment out in the sun and you can't keep birds out in the sun or some shit, like maybe, that's a big problem that you can't learn from observing.
You would entirely learn that from observing.
But the animals suffer or die before you learn that.
Right, but I don't know how little you have to know about animal rearing to know not to... I mean, how hard is it to keep a canary? Children have pet canaries.
I find it difficult.
You don't have a bird.
I know, but if you gave me a bird and were like, okay, go do this, I'd be like, oh god, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does it go near a window? Should we avoid windows? Like, how often do I have to change the water? Like, I don't know. Certain animals, like, you need really specific bedding. Like, I know a lot of small rodents, you need that weird smelly shit that's, like, shredded up newspaper or something. Like, you need that shit. But I'd be like, just put them in a crate, whatever.
Well, this was, like, the 1920s, 30s.
So?
You probably just put them in, like, a cage or a big... And, I mean, there's a lot... People have been keeping birds in large supply, crows or pigeons or canaries for coal mines, for example, for hundreds or maybe thousands of years.
I'm not saying the research wasn't available.
Owls.
I'm saying...
I know, but I'm saying birds are not hard to keep.
Okay. And also, discovering a cure for a disease isn't really something that you just do willy-nilly. I'm
not saying you just did it willy-nilly.
I know, but you're saying, like, all he had to do was look at birds, and I'm saying if I looked at birds for 20 years, I would not be able to invent a cure for a disease.
How would you not come up with something? If you're staring at birds for... I don't know. Let's say he's staring at birds for 6 hours every day, every single day.
Because he's not, like, analyzing their blood with a microscope and shit. Like, that's not... He's not a biologist.
You can study bird behavior.
Yeah, you can say, I'm diagnosing a bird with this disease. But I don't think you can create a cure. That's like, that's
You don't
on
think
the...
any diseases were cured or treated before the invention of the microscope?
No, but I'm saying, like, it would be like a doctor, not like a zoologist.
What is a doctor? Someone who studies the same thing over and over again every day. This is going nowhere. I think it's interesting that he was a pimp by, or maybe before, 18 in Alaska. Who's pimping who in Alaska? I'm shocked that they're... I mean, I guess it makes some sense if they're... And the only people in Alaska were fishers or loggers. You know, just giant, like, communes of 10,000 men. Kind of like lot lizards nowadays who just hang out in truck stops. A prostitute hanging out, a sex worker hanging out at a truck stop. So I guess it makes some sense, but I'm just... It just seems so counter to my stereotype of... Hello?
I mean, that doesn't
Hello?
surprise me at all. Like, pimps exist. That doesn't shock me.
Doesn't seem interesting to you?
Not particularly.
A pimp in 1909 in Alaska?
Not at all. I mean, sex work is one of the oldest professions that exists. That doesn't...
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just seems like when I think, you're right, but when I think, like, I have no problem reconciling sex workers, thousands, like pre-Christ, like biblical times. I have no problem reconciling that. But the thought of a pimp is such a stereotypical, it's such like a prototypically like 1980s or 90s furry coat and a big feather cap and a cane.
Sure.
It's just so, like, yeah, it exists, but I don't know, it'd be like saying there was like an electrician in 300 BC, but like, what? It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. Or like tell me there was like a circus clown in like, yeah, like ancient Egypt. I'd be like, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it just seems like something out of time. Like, if you like, because, like, I guess when I start going back, I think, like, okay, pimps in the 80s, perfect sense. Makes sense to me. Crack, AIDS, etc. Pimps in the 70s, sure, free love and sex. Pimps in the 60s, okay, I guess. But then you start thinking, like, pimps in the 50s? Like, when everyone's, like, a housewife with the Barbara Billingsley hair and...
No, I don't have
Pimps in the 40s?
I don't have an image. Like, when I
Pimps
think
in
of a
the
pimp, too,
20s?
I also think of, like, the pinstripe pants. So it's definitely before the 80s.
Okay, but pimps in Alaska?
Again,
I can't reconcile a pimp in Alaska now.
I know nothing of the pimp world, so I...
Okay, but Alaska, a pimp in the Yukon? What a life!
I don't care. I mean, you can pimp like one person and you're a pimp, or you can pimp like...
Yes, I can.
But as I'm saying, like, it's not a very hard to achieve title. All you have to do is, like, help one girl one time and you're her pimp. Like, it's not...
And they are helping.
Well...
Helping hands across America.
Well...
Pimps and hoes. Stay on your toes. Guys, hello? Hello? Is it just me now? Can I go back to talking about Birdman of Alcatraz?
I mean,
There was the reason I looked this up is because there was I think the first original song he's written in like 15 years, Bob Dylan, maybe longer, released a 17-minute song about JFK, maybe a week ago now, called A Murder Most Foul, which is interesting. Yep.
Sorry.
Can I help you?
Foul.
Welcome back to the pod, Jess. One-word answers.
I've been here, you're being mean to me, so I'm hanging back.
I wasn't being mean. I was just talking about pimps in Alaska, and then you didn't say anything for like 2 minutes straight.
Well, because you were mean before Pimps in Alaska, but... Anyway.
So, foul. Yeah, like a bird.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Birdman.
Yeah, but that's not...
And it's connected somehow, because this is why you're talking about
Well, canary's not foul. Jessica? Hello?
Well, I don't know what a fowl is specifically.
I think fowl is
like
just
hens and shit?
hens and
turkeys.
And roosting birds.
Well,
but anyway, in the song he references the Birdman of Alcatraz, maybe because he was shot the day before JFK was shot. It would make sense. But it's funny. There's a line in the song that says like right before a very poignant line, which is like. The day the president died, a murder most foul. The line immediately before that is rub-a-dub-dub. And this is Bob Dylan, the first song he's written. It's a 17-minute song about JFK's death.
Weird.
The first song he's written in 17 years, and I think the first song he's written...
Oh, he wrote it recently?
Yeah, he wrote it, I mean, I think. He wrote it and released it released it like a week or maybe 2 weeks ago now, and it's the
I thought
first.
this was an old song.
No. It's JFK died a long time ago, but no, it's the first original song he's written since he won the Nobel Prize.
I don't mean to be rude,
2
but
years
I
ago
don't
or
like
so?
Bob Dylan.
I know you don't,
I
but
think his
I just think
songwriting
that
is ridiculous.
I know you. Yes, but my point is more that just the rub-a-dub-dub I thought was
It fits with my impression of Bob.
kind of funny.
Nothing surprises me today.
You like a lot of Bob Dylan songs.
No,
you
I
just
do not.
You do.
Nope.
You do. They're just covers.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm not doing this, but it's interesting because the song is about the not just JFK, but about like the culture around both before and after. Talking about the Beatles, talking about like the Birdman of Alcatraz, for example, but talking about things like that. And it struck me as interesting as I listened to Bob Dylan talk about, say, the Beatles, say I don't know, like certain television shows and stuff like that. Talking about like the culture that developed around JFK and after his death, it seems interesting to me because he was such an enormous. He was maybe the most famous American musician in, the early '60s.
Okay.
Like around '63 when JFK died, he might have been, besides JFK, Bob Dylan might have been the most famous American. Period.
Okay.
So it's just interesting that he was singing about people who were much less famous than himself, like the Birdman of Alcatraz. It's interesting to think that he would have to have, been sitting at a desk thinking, like, who was big in '63? What was going on? Me, obviously. But what, like, he couldn't, like, someone else writing a song about 1963 would have brought up Bob Dylan 5 or 6 times.
I don't hear much about Bob Dylan in my life. Like, he literally he's not a name that I hear ever.
Because, well...
It is weird that he's writing songs about the 60s now, though. Like, maybe he's a little hung up on that. Maybe.
We can move
Obviously,
on.
I'm not following the script that you are intending me to
No,
follow.
it's not. You going off road isn't problematic. It's you... Because every time I try and talk... You say you don't hear a lot about Bob Dylan. Anytime I bring up Bob Dylan, you immediately end the conversation.
But I'm saying if
why you
like
don't
in
hear a lot
any of
about
my
Bob
other
Dylan.
social circles, no one ever talks about Bob Dylan. It is not. You're the only person that I've ever met that even likes Bob Dylan.
No.
Or that has ever told me that they liked Bob Dylan.
Even that I wouldn't believe. And also, he's not just... You could say, well, was he done since, 1974? He won the Nobel Prize 2 years ago. It was literature.
Oh. And
I told you this, and you went, and then
I
you
don't
stopped.
think that his writing is good.
I know, but then I said, why don't we, like, read some of it? And you went, no. Like, you don't like him, which is fine.
It's just his lyrics, right? Or, like, has he written any...
Yeah, he's not... I mean, I would think it's just the lyricism.
You forced me to listen to his CD in your car many a time.
I know, but you don't actually listen.
Yes, I do.
You don't. You tune out. I don't think you could name 3 Bob Dylan songs. I think you could name, since I'm giving it to you, we'll count it. I think you could name All Along the Watchtower if you're like...
I was going to say that, but
if
then
you're
I was like, no,
prompted towards it, but you would think,
Damn it.
no, that's not him, that's Jimi Hendrix, but it's a
Yes,
Bob Dylan song.
I was thinking
Right.
Jimi Hendrix, yeah.
Jimi Hendrix covered it.
Got
Jimi
it.
Hendrix was a very big fan of Bob Dylan. He would carry a book of his music around everywhere he went.
That's cute.
But let's say that counts. Can you name 2 other Bob Dylan songs?
He and the Beatles kind of
Oh my God.
overlap with me a little bit, so like
Okay, name 3 Beatles songs.
Yellow Submarine.
1,
Yesterday.
2,
Hey Jude.
3.
Fuck you.
Name a Bob Dylan song.
I can't.
You can't say they
I don't know.
overlap.
Well, no, I'm saying like I get them confused. Where like when I'm thinking of Bob Dylan songs, I want to say Yesterday. I don't. I don't care for him.
You don't have to care for Bob Dylan. You don't have to care for Bob Dylan. You're right. I have other prep that we could go into if you don't mind. Let me.
Please.
I have them on tabs on my computer. We could. Oh, if you. I know you're missing the zoo. We could talk about the San Diego Zoo, dear reader. If you go to kids.sandiegozoo.org/videos, you can watch live webcams of not all of their animals, but some of them, which is ape cam, it's their orangutans, baboon cam, condor cam, elephant cam, giraffes, koalas, owls, pandas, tigers, polar bears, and penguins.
Only one big cat, huh?
Yep, only one big cat.
Wow.
You are correct. Yes.
Well, the condor sounds pretty cool.
Do you like giant pandas?
No.
I'm a big fan of giant pandas. I vacillate. Sometimes I say they're my favorite bear. People say, oh, aren't they more closely related to raccoons? People are stupid. The red panda
That's
is more closely
yes.
related to a raccoon, called hun ho, or fire fox in Chinese. It's very closely related to the raccoon. The giant panda is in the ursid family. In spite of being...
It doesn't look anything like a raccoon either.
Well, I mean, I guess the big bags around the eye, the big black circles around the eyes.
Again,
I kind of
like,
get
there
that.
are lizards that have that pattern. And you're not going to be like, that's a raccoon.
You're right. It's dumb. Giant pandas are in the ursid family, maybe super family, I don't know. Although I think they might technically, because they have two thumbs like koalas on each hand. Like kangaroos, a lot of marsupials have two thumbs per hand, or like a thumb and a half. It's
pretty gross.
Pandas might technically be marsupial, but I don't think they are. I think they
have
some...
have a pouch?
I don't know if they have a pouch necessarily. I think like something about the way they give birth is weird and marsupial-ish.
I could swear they have a weird pouch.
They might. I don't know, but they're not. I don't think they're true marsupials. I think they just have some marsupial.
Okay.
They're bears who evolved in
that.
a weird way and adapted and maybe have some intermingling with
they're
some
not
marsupial.
Very good.
Maybe like 50,000, 100,000, 10 million years ago, there was some megafauna that was a marsupial that was much larger. I mean, there were sloths that were like the size of bears.
Sure.
So there could be a koala bear that's the size of a bear.
Can they run, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, physically, I'm sure they can run, but, like, do they?
Yeah, were you with me? It was just you and me, wasn't it? When we went to the
when it climbed
DC
a pole.
Zoo, it climbed I think a tree. It ran up the tree really quickly, and it was a very thin tree. I wouldn't have thought it would be able to hold a panda bear, and it ran up it faster than I think. I think that most people could like climb a rope. It went up it really quickly, and it went like 50 feet up the tree. It just rocketed right up it.
Okay.
It was very nimble.
Yes.
And then it did somersaults.
Yes. But a koala can climb too. So like to me, I'm like, they do feel more.
Koalas can run.
But you never see koalas run. Actually, I don't see a lot of koalas in general. But like, I feel like a lot of bears run and play, and like they're very active, and I don't really feel like panda bears are that active. So to me, they don't really. Like, obviously they are bears, but they just don't really feel like a legitimate bear.
They're weird and seem at times kind of goofy because they put things on their head a lot and they roll around a lot.
They were showing, like, a zookeeper video of, like, baby pandas.
Raking.
What? Leaves. Yeah, but it's like, and someone was like, every single panda video that you see is just utter chaos. Like, every time I've ever seen anyone try to handle a panda or a group, or, like, get anything done around pandas, it's just absolute chaos.
Yeah.
They're rolling, they're tumbling, they're falling, they're...
Two pandas maybe in the San Diego Zoo, I don't remember, like Ying Ling and Peepaw or something, mated for the first time like a week ago since 15 years ago.
Nice.
Maybe 12 years ago when researchers at the zoo have been trying to get them to mate. People are saying maybe it's just since people aren't watching them all the time, they feel, but who knows. But panda bears... I don't know. You never know. Orangutans, as we go to the zoo in Philadelphia from time to time, the orangutans have blankets in their enclosure, and they use them to cover their faces because they're shy.
It's super cute.
Like
I know, but I think the more intelligent, like...
Bears are very smart. I don't know if panda bears specifically... I don't know if panda bears specifically are very smart, but...
I don't know.
Bears are very smart. Bears are some of the smartest animals...
Really?
...in the world. I was going to say animals in the animal kingdom, but it seemed a little redundant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smarter than your average bear, maybe.
Oh, I guess it's fair. I don't know. I don't hear a lot about bear intelligence. Can't really speak to it.
Let's go rob a bank.
It's hard because I feel like there are a lot of... I don't know, because I keep talking about this too. Like, I feel like the big cats are very smart, and you always tell me that they're not. So I don't know if I trust you.
I don't think Well, A, just because I say something doesn't mean it's wrong, and just because you want something to be true doesn't make it right. B, I don't think I often say that.
You do, because I always ask you how intelligent tigers are when we go to see the tigers.
Yeah, because you always say, like, okay, relative to, like, an ape, and then I say not as smart as an ape.
No, I know, but you're like, they're just not very smart in general.
I don't think I would say that, because I don't think that's true. I don't know how smart they are.
Like, is a tiger smarter than a bear?
But I don't think so.
How do we calculate? See, I don't think you think that tigers are very smart.
How do we calculate? I think I have an accurate assessment because I've read stuff. I know things. You just want tigers to be smart because you're your favorite animal.
I read stuff as well.
What have you ever read about animal intelligence?
So many things. Okay. I don't keep a tally of all of my sources.
Right, neither do I. Jessica's going about for tigers. I don't know if they're smart or not. I just know the only thing you ever ask me is how they stack up compared to apes and people, and I say they're not as smart as apes or people, and you go, I don't know about that. And then that's it. That's the extent of the conversation we have
People
probably
also say
once a
that
month.
Pigs are very smart too.
Yep.
And dolphins and shit.
Yep.
I need to do more research on animals.
Anything, yeah. Any of this.
Yep.
So, that's, you can go watch zoo animals
Very
live
cute.
on cam. I don't know how late it goes to. Like, I don't know if they put them in an enclosure, but I checked on the East Coast here.
Check right now.
No, it's like 10 p.m. You won't be able to see anything anyway. Yeah, but it's nighttime. I checked at 9 p.m. here on the East Coast, so in San Diego it would be 6 p.m., and I saw the elephants walking about. They have a baby.
You should have told me about
There's
it.
a big elephant and a little elephant. You were downstairs.
I have a phone.
I know, I thought I'll tell Jess
Should have, like,
during
checked
the pod.
this shit out.
Yeah, I know.
I'll check out the tigers. I'll watch them.
Exactly. So, that's...
Tigers at the Bronx who are all sick with COVID.
That's true, they do have coronavirus. That's weird. Anyway...
I would assume that they'll be very quick to recover, though, just because it seems like they already, like, got the vets in. It wasn't that serious. We're already recovering. Like, I think a zoo is a good... Like, it's very contained, and they can just, contain the animals, and it'll be over soon, but it just, it's sad.
Yeah, poor little animals.
Yeah.
Animals, as Jess would say. What's on your foot?
I don't say that. It's confetti, obviously.
Confetti? Oh, it's metal.
Confetti and nail polish. What do you
Oh,
want?
that's what I'm holding right now. Been playing with this for 15 minutes.
A bag of confetti must have fallen. Like, I
hate it here. It's gross.
I'm doing such a good job of cleaning.
That was I guess I didn't really have anything for that. I just thought it would be
no, it's
interesting
nice.
to tell
It's
our
a good.
listeners.
I'll check it out. We'll link it in the description. And yeah.
White House is bringing in a new press secretary.
Yeah, I heard Trump fired him.
Yeah, fired the replacement before he ever held a press conference, which I think is interesting.
Oh my god.
And now they're bringing in a woman who I don't know anything about.
He's such a...
So it's interesting. The acting, I think, Secretary of the Navy, I should look it up before I just say it, resigned.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Why?
about 4 days ago, there was a captain on a Navy ship who was, 4 days ago now at least. When you're listening to this, week and a half, 2 weeks, but 4 days ago, as of this recording on April 7th, there was a captain on a ship who emailed like 30 of his superiors that, something needed to be done because there are people on his ship who had the virus and people should be allowed to get off because we're not in active wartime. So he says, people are going to die because this virus spreads because there are 1,000 guys on the ship. And so that email leaked, and because that email leaked and the excuse that the Navy gave was, well, he didn't use the proper channels of communication.
Oh, please.
Because it leaked, it undermines the chain of command.
Shut up.
So anyway, they dismissed him from the ship. All the sailors said it was bullshit. They gave him a standing ovation when he was, when they docked at some port of call just to let him off. And then whoever this guy was, the acting Secretary of the Navy, because the Secretary of the Navy himself resigned, and Trump replaced him with an acting secretary because it's a confirmation that has to go through Congress. And,
Wait, sorry. So the fact that this whole didn't they kick him off or did he resign?
So the captain of the ship was kicked off.
Okay.
The Secretary of the Navy, who's way above being a captain of a ship,
okay,
went down to Guam, flew to Guam, which is where the ship was, and gave a speech in front of the sailors on the ship, which was like 2,000 or 5,000, some enormous number of guys, saying, what he did undermined the Navy and undermined all of us, and we can't let this stand, and he's naive and stupid. And so
that
he
must
gave
have
this
not gone over very well.
This whole blistering speech defending why he or whoever it was who actually chose to dismiss this captain made that call, and then that was about 8 hours ago, or maybe 12 hours ago, and then 4 hours ago, so 8 hours later, he resigned.
Oh shit! See, that's what I'm saying. It did not go over well.
So it's interesting. I don't know if he had like a come to Jesus moment where he realized that what he was doing was not working, or that he was unpopular, or that he was forced to get rid of the guy, and then had a change of heart, or if someone said like, look, you shouldn't have resigned, or you shouldn't have fired this guy in the first place. Yeah. So you either have to step down, or we're gonna fire you, which seems to be happening a lot in this past few years. So that's just interesting. That's in the news. That's something that's mostly not related to coronavirus in the news. Okay. Acting Secretary of the Navy changing. I don't know who the replacement is. Acting Deputy Secretary of the Navy, I guess. We'll have to step up.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's fun, huh?
Yeah.
Fun times we're living in.
I love drama.
Yeah. Drama mama.
Movie drama.
Let's see what else. I had something else. Think. What was it? Who remembers?
No.
What are you eating?
Bilar.
Go ahead and tell the readers what bilar is.
It means car in Swedish. They're Swedish candy that I have been hoarding, I guess, for years. And they're really stale. Like, really, really stale. But they're fucking delicious. And the taste has not gone away. Even though the texture has. They're supposed to be chewy and marshmallowy. But mine are rock hard. So.
Yo.
So I'm eating.
Bada bing, bada boom.
But when we go to Sweden this year, I'm going to try to get as many bilar as possible. Stop.
We go to Sweden.
Do you think that we're not going to be able to go to Sweden?
I don't know. I'd say.
I feel like in some countries they're already allowing travel again.
I'd say 50-50.
No, really?
Yeah.
By July or like at all this year?
By July, which is if we don't go in July, you and I can do whatever we want. But if we don't go in July, it's a trip with Jessica's parents, brother, grandmother. If we don't go,
Grandma might bail, which is understandable.
Fine. She's in her 80s.
Yeah.
She is 80 and has a lot of other travel lined up.
Sure.
So.
Well, I mean, all of that's probably not happening.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
She might be cabin fevered up the wazoo too.
So we'll see.
I would argue the trip is definitely happening. There's no way. People are talking about lifting it at the end of April, and if anything, they're talking about like, they say like as long as there's a decline in cases.
That's like in New York State, Jess. You're talking about going to Sweden, which is an island, which might have very different restrictions of letting people on the island so that it doesn't start a pandemic on the island.
I understand. I'm just.
Are you sure? Because it's a big difference between some stuff opening again and being allowed to travel from the United States, which is the hardest hit country in the present moment, to other countries might not let us in.
Why are we the hardest? Like, I guess we're big.
A lot of reasons, but
okay.
My point is that, who knows whether this trip is going to happen. We'll see. Do you want to talk about Sputnik?
I don't know what you're doing.
The satellite? I'm pivoting. I'm moving on.
I know that, but I don't know. Talk about what about him?
It, not him.
Well,
Sputnik is Russian for...
potato?
No, that's Spud, and that's English. Sputnik is Russian for spouse or traveling companion, but it's a homonym when it's applied to aeronautics. It means satellite. I don't know if that's because the Sputnik was named Sputnik, or if it already meant that and they named it that.
Wait, it's a homonym in what language? In Russian?
Russian.
Okay.
English. Of course, Russian.
I don't know.
Definitely not English.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the...
I always thought that it was huge. You learn about the International Space Station, for example.
Educate them on what this satellite even is.
What Sputnik is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would have to assume they know what Sputnik is, but Sputnik in 1955, Eisenhower said, the United States is going to send a satellite up into space, and the Russians, 3 days later, not even the Russian premier or whatever premier said, but some physicist in Russia said, we're doing it too, 3 days later, we're sending a satellite too, and so over the next 2 years, there was a bit of a space race. I don't really know that the U.S. program was all that active, and anyway, the Russians, long story short, were the first ones to the punch. I think Sputnik was their second attempt. Launched a satellite into space, and it went around the Earth for 3 weeks, going about every 90 minutes. It made a full trip around the Earth, and it was broadcasting radio frequencies on 2 different channels, and you could track it and listen to it, and it also had a tiny little light, and it was about an average, I think, of 300 miles up. It was the first artificial satellite.
Okay.
And I always thought, because you think it's up there and it's, it's a satellite, you learn about the International Space Station, you hear people telling about how they could see the light from their windows, stuff like that on a clear night. Is that true? I think so.
Okay.
And so you think of it being big, You think of it being like you think of, for example, like an airplane. You think, yeah, they probably took something akin to an airplane and launched it into space.
Or like a rocket.
Right, exactly. Sputnik was 23 inches in diameter. It was a circle that was less than 2 feet in diameter. It was a little. That's cute. It was basically a big basketball, and it had four metal rods coming off of it, every 90 degrees. But those were very, very thin. They were like an inch wide, and those were only like
that seems pretty,
8 feet long. So
that
the
seems
entire
pretty
thing,
dinky to just be in space.
Yeah, the entire thing could like fit in a pickup truck. And the
Someone
entire.
could have hit it.
I guess, but what's up there?
Don't you have like asteroids and shit?
Not in the,
and just
not
little
in, like,
bits of.
not just above the stratosphere.
Okay.
What is it? The ionosphere, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, not. It was. I think the. What is it? The perigee and the apogee. I think the perigee is when it's closest to Earth. It was like 170 miles up or something, and the furthest it got was like 550 miles, 580 miles, something like that.
Okay.
So it's not that.
Wait, sorry. So what was it orbiting?
The planet.
Oh, the planet. Okay.
United
I don't know why I thought it was
Russia,
the moon.
Brazil, and all the other
like
countries.
the moon isn't 500 miles away. Oh, so it just
No,
okay.
the moon's like 250 miles, 250,000 miles.
Yeah, that makes all more sense. I was like, wait, how could it?
No, it's orbiting. Well, this was 12 years or so before we landed on the moon. Well, before a person stepped out on the moon. Anyway. So this was before anything had gone to the moon.
To be fair, even if I feel like if you put lights, like if the entire airplane was lit up, I don't think you could see it from the moon.
Yeah, this was really the start of the space race. And the Russians struck first, and so it was only about a little less than 2 feet wide, and weighed less than 200 pounds, the entire thing, and it had a little light on it, and radio frequencies would be sent out, and the battery on it, or whatever was a motor, I think it was a battery, was that powered the entire thing was 1 watt.
Cute.
So 1 watt motor on Sputnik. That's all they needed, I guess.
Crazy.
You're sending out 2 radio frequencies, so just fascinating to me. And it's funny, there's some show called like Cosmonauts or something that I've never seen. I've never seen a single scene of it. I don't even know if it's called Cosmonauts. Who cares? But anyway, there's this ad that I see a lot on, I think when I'm watching NFL games. There's this ad for a bunch of different shows, like get Hulu Plus or something. Amazon Prime, some crap like that. And so they show like 10 seconds from a bunch of different shows. Right?
Okay.
And the one that closes the commercial is a bunch of Americans sitting like in a sports bar watching, I think, Russians land on the moon. I think it's the premise of the show is Russians got to the moon first. Again, never seen the show. This is what I'm gleaning from this commercial. And it said there's a voice, like a severe voice, presumably talking over the television, like to all Americans, saying like, oh, the Russians, they caught us with our pants down. They got us, and we thought we were the best, but the Russians are beating us. We can't let this stand. We as a nation have to come together, and Monday morning, first thing, it's back to work. Like, really? You're racing people to the moon, and you're saying we have to, the fate of the world and the free society and Western civilization, Monday morning. We'll get to it. It's Saturday, you're at the bar, have another beer, relax. Yeah. Yes, the Ruskies beat us to the moon, but come on. Come on, tomorrow's Sunday.
Who cares?
We're going to start something now at 10:45, almost 11, Jesus. Come on. Monday morning, probably like 9:30. My kid has a thing that I have to take him to, and my wife has been kind of sick, but before noon, definitely Monday morning, we're going to fucking hit the ground running on this. We're only 3 years behind. They're already on the moon, but we'll get them Monday morning. It's like, really? You couldn't? Jess? Thoughts? Comment?
I mean, I don't see why we're racing to go to the moon anyway. Like, it's not like we're, like, mining the moon for goods and shit. Like,
that you know of.
Like, what is the, like, we won. What did we get from that? Literally nothing.
Eternal bragging rights.
Yeah, who fucking cares? It's just
because
like,
that way you can say
it's just
anytime,
a dick size competition.
Yes, and America had the biggest. There have been 12 men who have pretended to walk on the moon. All of them American. All of them American.
I just don't. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, it does. I mean, it does. If you'll let me tell you why. Space. First of all, the moon is a stepping stone to going to other planets, going to other star systems. You have to start somewhere, and the moon is a good start because it's the closest astrological body we have, right?
I understand.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'm saying, like, you're not going to tell me anything right now that I don't already know. It's like you're...
Well, we're having a conversation. What are we doing?
I know, but I'm just you're making it seem like you're teaching me this whole thing right now, and I don't think you're gonna change my mind. We can have a conversation about it, but it seems like you don't want to. You just want to change my mind.
All right, then go off. Let's hear your takedown of NASA.
Well, I mean,
Jessica owns the space program. Hashtag Ash Blasted.
I just don't.
Did you just say Ash Blasted?
You did.
Damn it.
What were you trying to say?
Ass Blasted?
Oh.
Obviously.
I thought you were trying to make like some solar system joke. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Not that clever. Just talking ass
Got
blasting.
a thick tongue.
I guess. What that thick tongue do? Trip over diphthongs. Go ahead.
I just lisp laughed, so that was good too.
Yeah.
No, I don't care. Like, if you tell me that we're like, everyone keeps saying like, oh, we're gonna start a civilization on Mars because we're killing our planet, so we're just gonna hop over to the next one. But like, that's not happening. Like, no one's been to Mars.
Right, but
we haven't even been there yet. Like, what the fuck are we doing? If it was like, okay, we got a man on the moon, and then within like 2 years we're gonna get a man on Mars, and within another 2 years we're gonna get a man on Jupiter, it's like, all right, sweet, this is something. I'm gonna pay attention to this. But it's like, if every 50 years we touch another planet, it's like, okay, cool. We didn't create.
It's this. Okay, just because something's not happening in your lifetime doesn't mean it's not happening.
But I'm just saying I don't care about it.
Okay, but that's selfish to say like, oh, 500 years from now, because of this this Apollo program, 500 years from now, humans will terraform an Earth-like habitable planet in the Goldilocks zone of some other star, and thus we will immortalize.
I like that they call it the Goldilocks zone.
Yep,
that's cute.
Just right.
Yeah.
They will immortalize or further immortalize, towards that. Kind of like Interstellar, that was the whole thing, is you're going to find a world and you're going to colonize it, right?
Sure. That's
going to happen because of this Apollo program. That's going to happen in 500 years. But I'm going to be dead, so I don't give a fuck.
Well, I'm saying too, like, it makes me upset that like everyone now, it's not. It would be one thing if it was just like, oh, cool, like we're gonna have another place to live or whatever the fuck people are into. Like, I don't even know what the motivation to go to other planets are, to be honest.
There are a million motivations, and
my point though is that
yeah, go ahead.
If it was like an asteroid situation where it's like, oh, you guys, like Earth is gonna be destroyed like the dinosaurs, we need to get up and move or like have a plan B, whatever. But the fact that people are like deciding to not give a shit about the Earth, or the fact that like their solution to global warming, which is we're causing global warming, and we're like, fuck it, let's just go to another planet. Like, it just makes me angry that it's like allowing people to have this selfish attitude that it's like, fuck it, we'll just kill our planet, we always have a plan B.
So first of all, we might already be on Mars if it weren't for people who got, like you, who got really bored after like the third or fourth time we landed on the moon, got really bored of the Apollo programs and said, let's defund all space research.
I am fine
and after
with
the Challenger explosion.
I don't think that we need to defund the space research. Like, that would never have been my vote.
Well, you said you didn't give a shit about landing on the moon.
Well, because nothing ever happened. Like, if I was
that would have been your vote in 1971. You said, we've been to the moon 6 times. Why are we still doing it? Fuck it. We need money for the roads and the schools. You entirely would have said that.
I don't know.
That's what you're saying right now.
Again, like, give me a realistic goal where it's like, this is what we're trying to do and why, and then, like, we'll talk about it. But I feel like just, like, yeah, throwing a bunch of dudes on the moon, but if they're collecting samples and researching shit, like, why not? But if, I don't know what they're doing.
The billions of dollars that went into the space program to get people on the moon has come up with untold advances in science and technology. A lot of what you're talking about global warming, a lot of the research that was done and is being done on the ozone layer and the effects that pollutants are having on the atmosphere was uncovered because of these space programs.
Then I wouldn't have defunded them.
Right, but you would have, because you're saying I don't give a fuck about going to the moon anymore. Also, there is if people who forget about the goals for a second. Forget about your understanding of the goals and how they pertain to you. Like, if they pertain to advancing, like if like you would have been like if you were like Queen Isabella, you would be like, yeah, we've been to the New World 4 times. Why are we still sending ships? We sent Columbus, and he got to the Bahamas, and then he got to Puerto Rico, then he got to Cuba. Enough. Why are we still going? What more is there to be found?
I don't think so. I think
that's what who knows what further we're going to advance. Also, you could say it's just a symbol, but symbols matter to people. Knowing that the government somewhere, even just that humanity can step onto another world, is an important.
I'm not saying that going to space isn't important. I'm saying the fact that we're challenging, like, we need to do it before Russia. If the human race gets to the moon, I'd be like fucking sick. Like, it was more the fact that we, like, created some dick size game. That's what I'm upset about. I'm not upset about the fact that we wanted to go to the moon. I'm upset that we made it a stupid competition for no reason.
Well, I mean, I think the reason is because once the Russians launched a satellite, I think the natural progression sort of becomes the moon, first of all. They launch a satellite, what are we going to do? Launch a bigger satellite? No, you have to do something else. You have to put a person in space, which, again, the Russians were the first people to do, Yuri Gagarin. Gagarin? Anyway, and I think they were the first people to put an animal in space, too. I think their dog... To get an animal successfully back from space, I think.
Okay, good.
But I think his name was Sasha. But anyway...
The puppy?
Yeah. But the next thing you really have to do is put a person in space and then basically have something go to the moon or a different planet.
Sure.
And then I think the conceit of the space race mattering is because people said, well, now that they're in space, they can drop missiles from space. I think that was the conceit. I mean...
It's funny.
That was the original...
Cold War.
Well, yeah, there's the original. I mean, also there is a big cultural like a lot of the pivotal moments in the Cold War was Bobby Fischer beating Boris Spassky in the Chess World Championship, right? Was like boxing matches and sporting events and
I don't
Miracle
care.
on Ice, a hockey team beating. So it's a lot of it is the stuff that people relate to, though. It's not proxy wars in Afghanistan. It's things that they see on their television. Things that keep morale up. Keeping morale up is one of the most important parts of engaging in this sort of cultural battle, particularly one that doesn't have... You can't say, well, we're beating the Russians because we're pushing them out of Leningrad, because there's no actual warfare going on. It's entirely a proxy war and a warfare of cultural significance and developments. The Cold War. That's all it was. So it has to be things like that. It has to be landing on the moon first. It has to be an American winning the Chess World Championship. It has to be things like this. Because there's nothing else. You're not capturing Moscow.
I know, we just shouldn't... I don't understand why it existed in the first place. Why do we have to be fighting with anyone? Just stop fighting. Well,
in the wake of World War II, there was the United States and the USSR were the two remaining superpowers.
I know,
they were positioning for global dominance and control. There's the U.S. position was containment, which is stopping the spread of communism.
I know.
So there's your answer. That's all we have today, pod racers. See you later. That's it. It's been like 47 minutes.
Okay.
See you later, pod racers.